So with a replacement topic, I'm going to spend more time talking about, I think, distal femoral fractures with a DFR. Comes up more often, but I do have some stuff on plateaus at the end of the talk. So no relevant financial relationship. So this is a slide I showed yesterday, and to the extent there is some controversy about, in this case, distal femur fractures, I think it probably has to do with the role of arthroplasty. So I showed the same slide yesterday. These are our treatment goals, but it's tough to obtain stable fixation and then that early return to function in patients that have osteoporosis and comminuted fractures. And in the elderly, then you have these additional considerations, which is the real imperative for immediate mobilization, that they tolerate complications and reoperations poorly, and then cost becomes an issue as well, especially when you're talking about arthroplasty. So the elder have these unique problems. The osteopenia we've heard about quite a bit. The increased incidence of pre-existing arthritis, as you see in this, and as we've seen before, they can't tolerate protected weight bearing, so it's sort of an all or nothing sort of phenomenon. A lot of these patients have, in addition to their physical frailty, have social frailty, lack of support, and are likely to be dependent on others already. And then this is similar to some of the things we saw on the plateau, where fixation doesn't always work well in these really comminuted fractures. It can be really difficult to obtain reconstruction of the articular surface. The knee is pretty tolerant if it's stable and aligned, but early infection and things can be an issue, and Ross has already talked about this. So when you see fractures like this with an increased likelihood of fixation failure and potential for a lengthy period of non-weight bearing following fixation, immediate arthroplasty is certainly a reasonable goal. You know, the joint replacement by definition treats the articular injury. You have an opportunity to dial in the alignment and not have to worry so much about that. These knees have varying degrees of constraints that you can adapt to the situation. The metaphyseal cones and stems allow fixation in the diaphysis, so you don't need to be able to reconstruct the supporting metaphyseal bone as much, and then you can typically or always allow immediate weight bearing, which is important. This is a paper about immediate arthroplasty and elderly plateau fractures, like we just saw, but this points out with fixation, we can really anchor a knee arthroplasty in the femur or the tibia, you know, on the supporting subchondral bone and the metaphyseal bone, or even in the diaphysis with these new constructs that we have available. So this is a case example. I showed a bit of this yesterday. An 89-year-old open, type 3 open, and also an AO type C 3 fracture of the distal femur. He was hypotensive, required resuscitation. We took him to the OR. He had a 10-centimeter open wound anteriorly. He had bone loss. So this is, you probably remember this x-ray from yesterday. So we took him to the OR immediately for just the IND and X-fix. I put a couple screws across the condyles just to kind of support them for later possible reconstruction. My intention was to take him back and do a serial debridements, but he was in the ICU and pretty unstable for a few days. But suddenly he kind of turned the corner. He woke up, he was conversant, he was physiologically stable, his incision was healing beautifully. Pin sites, of course, got a little bit red, but you know, it's 2 weeks later, and we've got to make a decision about what I'm going to do. So I actually took him to the OR and did a DFR, and he came back. There's substantial bone loss, which I think was my main indication, the metaphyseal bone. He was really looking at a prolonged reconstructive course, and he, you know, he did really well. This is as Amir said, they all do really well. Is that what you were saying? So, anyway, this is a recently published paper looking at or documenting the increased utilization of total joint replacement and distal femur fractures. And I'm going to be talking this afternoon on how to assess the literature. So that is not the take-home point. This study is about board, you know, people taking their Part 1 boards. So these are surgeons that have just finished their residency fellowship and maybe, you know, 2 years of practice. Those are the ones who are, at least in this case, doing a lot more arthroplasty, which, you know, makes sense. They're exposed to it. And but this doesn't mean that everybody's doing more arthroplasty, although I think that's happening too. But they noted that the proportion of arthroplasty increased per year, about 0.2%, whatever that is, and it was higher among arthroplasty trained surgeons, getting to what we saw earlier. If you have a hammer, you tend to use it. The medical surgical complications were more higher after arthroplasty, as were reported in this, but you know, there's potential for significant selection bias here and more frail patients getting arthroplasty. This is, I chose a couple papers that kind of describe outcomes comparing internal fixation and arthroplasty, and I think it's pretty clear that the functional outcomes are very similar. There's a Cochrane review that was recently updated that says the same thing. Clearly, distal femoral replacement is more expensive in the short term, but just like in the hip, with hip arthroplasty, the decreased reoperation rates and the shorter hospitalizations perhaps mitigate quite a bit of that. And there's, and less need for post-op acute care. You can get a lot of more of these patients perhaps home or back to the living environment sooner. This is another paper, retrospective study. This is from the DFR research group that exists in the among orthopedic trauma surgeons, I guess. We're not part of it, but 12 trauma centers. And again, get into the research thing I'll talk about later. I'm not sure why they made the primary outcome PJI. To me, the most important outcome would probably be reoperation. But anyway, it'd be interesting to find out why they chose that. Secondary outcomes, though, reoperation, one-year mortality, and function. And so the PGI rate was just under 6% for the DFR. The one-year mortality was 27%. Reoperation rates, you can see everything here. Importantly, more than half of the patients returned to their baseline function, which is the goal. And here's another paper looking at small number of patients, 27 fixation, 12 DFR patients who had comminuted fractures over age 65. And DFR was more expensive, so you can see that the difference in expense. The larger portion of DFR patients were able to mobilize. Subacute length of stay was longer in the fixation patients. So that sort of summarizes the literature. There's quite a bit more patients with papers with similar findings. So just a few tips and tricks for doing a DFR. So for length, you want to really template to the opposite leg and make sure that that's restored. I think primarily comes down to templating and assessing tension and extension mechanism intraoperatively. Rotation is what everybody's worried about. I think that's really pretty easy. This is a paper in the oncology literature about doing an endoprosthesis and using the linea aspera, but there's a lot of variability. And doing revision knees a lot in my elective practice, I think the thing you want to pay attention to is just simply the flexion gap. And so I do the tibia first. You can just have a trial tibia in, but if you rotate the femur so that the flexion gap is symmetric medially and laterally, I think you'll get your rotation where it should be, and then your patellofemoral tracking should do well, and the knee stability should be well. So this is how I do it, and it's fairly straightforward. This is the same topic that Ross was showing now. We'll move down to plateau fractures. I've had a lot less need for acute arthroplasty in knees for plateau fractures. It tends to be the delayed cases like Ross was showing, but here's one case that I can show where we did an acute total knee. So here you see, obviously involvement primarily with the lateral tibial plateau and the knees and valgus, and there's some degree of comminution, but when you see the CT scan, it's pretty impressive. You could probably put a femoral head in there, and I actually used to do that back in the day when I didn't have arthroplasty options that I was comfortable with, but take a frozen femoral head and put it in there and start reaming. But now that we have these more sophisticated arthroplasty options, I think this is a good indication to be able to mobilize someone quickly in an elderly patient. So you can see a small cone here, a long stem, and this patient was able to rehabilitate, very quickly. This is a post-traumatic case that I did, and I showed this slide earlier, and this gets to the issue of hardware removal, and we could debate that probably all afternoon, but you can see some calcium phosphate or something in there that, despite a year or two later, is still sitting there. It didn't turn into bone, and this is the outcome post surgery. So again, a long stem. A fairly straightforward revision. I think I did the hardware removal in one stage and left that medial plate there because it wasn't bothering the patient at all. I mentioned yesterday during our discussion that I had a case where most of the hardware was able to be left in place, and I found that X-ray. So sometimes you don't have to take the hardware out, maybe just a couple of screws here and there. And this is obviously a different patient. So this paper looks at acute versus delayed total knee for plateau fractures. It's from the Swedish Arthroplasty Registry. The Scandinavians do a good job of keeping registries in their patients. So they looked at all TKAs in the registry for nearly a decade for either acute tibial plateau fractures or for fracture sequelae. So they had 150 roughly for acute total knees and nearly 1,000 for for sequelae of a tibial plateau fracture. The TKA patients were typically older, or more likely female, and more often had to have constrained revision-type implants. The delayed total knees had a greater risk of unplanned reoperations, and when they had revision, they needed to be done sooner with more infection-related revisions, but the ones that had the acute arthroplasties tended to last longer, but their revisions were done more often for loosening, which kind of makes sense, I think. So to summarize, arthroplasty using stemmed implants, cones in the tibia for a plateau fracture, and appropriate constraints can be done acutely to primarily manage nearly all distal femoral or proximal tibial fractures. The primary advantage is immediate weight bearing. Primary disadvantage are the costs, and the outcomes seem to be, close enough that it's hard to measure in a study. Thank you.